Series are starting to make a difference to the environment by introducing eco-friendly paper straws to their 200 ml juice cartons. iloveza.com, in collaboration with Series, are starting up a conservation conversation with some industry experts.
Welcome to Conservation Starter. Welcome to Conservation Starter. I'm your host, Ziyaad Plaatjes, and today on the show we have Najma Mohamed, who is the Policy Director at Green Economy Coalition. Good day, Najma. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ziyaad. It's lovely to be with you today.
Thank you, Najma. Najma, can you tell us about the Green Economy Coalition and your role in the organization?
So the Green Economy Coalition is the world's largest movement for green and fair economies, and we bring together 60 plus organizations from a wide range of backgrounds, trade unions, NGOs, UN agencies, citizens groups that are really all united by the belief that a green and fair economy is possible, necessary, and achievable. So I work in the policy team, and we really try to identify the kind of policies and changes that we need to shift our economies onto a pathway that works not only for the planet, but works for people as well. We're active with members across the world, from South America all the way to Asia. We've got members in North America to Australia. So it's really a global movement, bringing together like-minded people that know that our economies need to change.
What do you do at the organization?
So I work with both our global and national members to identify the kind of policies that we need. We do a lot of lobbying and advocacy with the governments where our partners are based in. We have members based in South Africa, actively working with the South African government to identify new policies, new practices, new innovations that can really take us onto a pathway where citizens become active and engage in making decisions about the society and the economy that they want. Our members work with local communities, with entrepreneurs, with farmers to begin to bring their voices to the policy-making table so that their visions and their dreams become a part of the future that we shape. And we also do a lot of lobbying at the global level, because we do believe that the global processes that we all countries engage in are very important to set the vision as a planet, where we want to move as a society and as a globe. So we work at multiple levels, and I'm based in the Secretariat of the Green Economy Coalition, working at the global level and supporting our members who work at national and local level.
That's very interesting. Valuing nature is one of the Green Economy Coalition's themes. Why is it this important in economic decisions?
I think, Ziyaad, we often forget that nature is really our global life support system. Without it, our economies can't function and our societies can't survive. I want us to think about a few figures and just, let it sink in that over 500 million smallholder farmers make their living from healthy soils, nature. 1.2 billion jobs in the world depend on healthy, stable ecosystems, nature. Or half of the 640 billion of the global pharmaceuticals industry, where we get our medicines from, is based on the genetic diversity of wild species. So healthy nature, we get our medicines from mostly, from plants. So without nature, there's no economy, there's no society, but really nature really features in government and company balance sheets, but it's beginning to change. And we're working actively on trying to put nature at the heart of economic and business decisions. And I'm happy to share with you some of the work that we're doing, Ziyaad.
Okay, you can.
Okay, so at the moment, we're working with quite a few organizations globally to develop new systems and advocating for new systems of wealth accounting, where we think of the wealth of our country, not in terms of just, the physical wealth, the buildings and the infrastructure, but the human capital, the capital that we have in people, in the skills and the talents and the capabilities of people, but in nature as well. So very often when a country used to assess, its wealth, we often only look at, what is the physical wealth of the country, what is the mineral wealth, what is the physical infrastructure, and we wouldn't include, nature in the balance sheet, in the sort of wealth account of the country. And fortunately, there's many countries that are beginning to develop inclusive, indices of wealth that look at natural, social, and other forms of capital and wealth, We are also working, some of our partners are working with businesses, not an easy sector to change, but to get them to begin to think about how their operations impact on nature, how intricately business are actually dependent on healthy soils, clean water to be able to manage, their industries and their companies and their businesses. And then we also very actively, because we are a civil society coalition, actively supporting citizens to hold their governments to account to the commitments that they make. So if our governments are committed, for example, in South Africa, the constitutional right that every citizen has got a right to a healthy, clean environment. We've just seen in South Africa the historic case where communities in Mpumalanga, in the Highveld area, have instituted, a lawsuit against the government around the toxic air pollution. So we also support citizens all over the world that want to engage with their governments so that they can take care and invest in nature as part of economic development. And we develop new economic models that don't exploit and degrade nature. Both current and future generations are going to taste that, but we are trying to lobby and advocate for government that there is a different way to develop and to invest in our economies and our societies.
You're talking about citizens getting involved. How does one get involved with the Green Economy Coalition?
So we engage, as I've told you, we are a coalition of more than 60 members. Many of them are global, but also national organizations. But our partners at country level are engaging with citizen groups, with farmers. In India, we formed a network of of small businesses that are working on ecologically friendly construction. In Peru, our partner has got a member of local green enterprises that have, almost grown from just a few, like 20 enterprises to over 230 that are involved in local green products and services. So we actually, at the global level, we have quite a lot of engagement with some of the key institutions we try to influence, but through our national partners at country level, we engage right down to the community level. With our partner in Mongolia, citizens started becoming involved in lobbying for clean air, because Mongolia is an incredibly cold country, and winter is one of the most polluted cities in the world, countries in the world, because of the burning of coal inside of homes that are very well insulated because of the cold climate. And this has had a major impact on particularly the health of women and children. And so our partner in Mongolia has built bridges and created a dialogue between the local government officials in the capital city, Ulaanbaatar, and citizens, women and children. And I've spoken to them and I've looked at how, these practices are influencing the health and what can be done differently. What are the solutions? So there's a broad spectrum, that organizations or individuals can get involved in at the local level, engaging, in action around issues that concern local communities, to the global level, where we really try to push for new policies and new ways of thinking about our economies.
Do you think that corporates are transforming smoothly to be more green, or is it just a buzzword that they use to keep us journalists and conservationists and environmentalists happy?
If you'd asked me this question 10 years ago, I would say it's all greenwash, meaning that they are just telling us that things are going well and that they're green and environmentally friendly, but it's just a thin veneer, like putting, green paint on something that really its substance is not environmentally friendly. But I think we have seen, to give credit to the business community, there's been a lot of shifts in thinking from, a focus on just working for the profits of shareholders to starting to think about shared value creation. What is the purpose of business? What is the social responsibility of business? And I think there's been a lot of push factors that has pushed business to change from governments, new policies and regulations that companies have to comply with, but also the sort of influence among their peers. So, for example, if a big company sees, their competitor actually making really strong strides in taking sustainability issues seriously, trying to work with small businesses when they are procuring services, the pressure is on them to try to be a business that is more socially and environmentally responsible. So I do think that it's a mixed bag. You get companies that are still carrying on, and then you get the real leaders that are showing, their competitors and putting on the pressure and showing, that change is possible. Business can be profitable, but they can also operate in a way that's socially responsible and also takes account of the impact that they have on the environment.
Choose nature. Choose turtles. Choose tomorrow. Choose to make a difference. Choose eco-friendly paper straws. Choose Series.
We hear that companies are trying to obviously reduce their global footprint. I'm not sure how it is there in Cape Town, but here in Gauteng, we go through like Sandton or one of the big hubs, business hubs, and we see bigger buildings being built. Do you think that firms are doing everything that they can to reduce their global footprint?
They are not. I mean, yeah, I will not. They definitely aren't. I mean, I think, as I've told you, you can see the leaders in the industry that are making that change. And by the way, Ziyaad, it's been for me a while back, coming home to South Africa after a long time, and you can see, that obviously the crisis, in energy supply, and many businesses have shifted to more efficient practices, relying on renewable energy, installing the solar panels so that they can begin to augment, the energy supply that they need to run their businesses. So I think some businesses have taken the steps for efficiency gains, to make their businesses run more effectively. But we really need a strong push, I think, from government to create that incentives, to put the kind of policies and the laws and regulations in place so that businesses, comply and understand that they have to, operate. I think South Africa, there's no way we can get away from the fact that we are, an economy that's very coal intensive, and we have to shift away from it, and businesses can really play a leading role. So I don't think that we're doing enough, Ziyaad. I think sometimes still we've got the short-term horizon on our mind. Get the buildings up, get the business started. But I think many of us that are working in the area of climate change are very worried. I'm sure that people have started hearing about new forms of anxiety around climate change. People feeling, young people feeling the mental strain that what's the future they're going to go into? What is the world going to be like for them? Are there going to be jobs for them? Are they going to live in healthy, cities where they can breathe the air? So I do think there's an urgency and there's an anxiety about this crisis that we're facing. And I do think that business have a strong responsibility to actually, take I think the days of milking the system for just the profits, are over. And you need workers, you need citizens to actually put the stop sign up and engage with businesses, to figure out new models, new ways of doing business.
Is there anything that you might have seen while you were overseas in the UK or any of the other partner countries that you think we should implement here in South Africa that would obviously, help the process?
I mean, I think the one big asset that a lot of businesses have is their buildings. So I think South Africa, we've got Green Building Council, but the sort of push, that World Green Building Council has made across the world to get, businesses engaged and to change how they build, how they retrofitting buildings and then seeing the efficiency gains and costs. The one other really amazing, intervention that I've seen is actually linking into small businesses to see the procurement policies change within bigger businesses, so they begin to get their services from smaller businesses, support local businesses, that they look at local green enterprises that have a social impact. I think that has been for me quite an advancement. And then I think the kind of peer pressure, the pressure between industries, so that you can begin to see, one industry saying, oh, this is too expensive, we can't make this change now. And then seeing a competitor or seeing a peer in the industry take that leap, that has been, the kind of change that you see. I remember many years working on on organic agriculture and asking farmers, what do you think is the biggest, way to encourage other farmers to become more sustainable in their practices? And they say that they've got to see it. So they've got to see it in action. They've got to be able to see that we can produce, food organically, but we can still, make a profit. We can still, our soils is going to be much healthier than these soils next year. I think businesses need to learn from one another and see this investment not as a loss, but as an investment for the medium and long, future. I think the short-term thinking has got to end.
Okay, so you're talking about, we're talking about SMEs specifically, and they are mostly or mainly sometimes the backbone of our economy. And you're also talking about education. So how do we educate these SMEs to move on to green economies? Or
Yeah, this is one area that the Green Economy Coalition has worked on a lot. In all our countries, in the 8 countries we're currently working in at the moment, micro, small and medium enterprises, the MSMEs or small and medium enterprises, as we call them here in South Africa, are really the foundation of economies. In some of the countries that we work in, up to 90% of the economic activity in a country is done by small, sometimes informal businesses. And I think that you cannot go on this green transition as a society without taking small businesses along. And I want to share with you a really amazing story from one of our partners in the Caribbean. So they've developed a tool called the blue, because in the Caribbean, they call it the blue economy. So the blue and green economy radar. So it's a toolkit that they've rolled out in 11 countries in the Caribbean, working with small businesses on the ground in their communities that they work in and where they assess their footprint as a business. So each business would go through this toolkit, through this radar, and do a scan of what is our social, environmental, and economic, impact. And then they have a chance to assess themselves and look at the areas that they're doing well in, where they need support in. And this toolkit has actually helped a lot of those small businesses identify how they can firstly understand their footprint and how they can make changes in their businesses, and then to look to where are the support mechanisms. So across the world, many governments either have, like South Africa, a ministry for small business promotion and development that really many entrepreneurs are not even aware of, the kind of incentives and the opportunities and the training that they can get. So I think, the Caribbean case is, a wonderful case in point. I mentioned to you in Peru how this network of local green enterprises grew from like 20 enterprises to over 230 at the moment, working on green products and processes, and they've lobbied the government to recognize green enterprises as a form of a small business. And so once the government recognizes this enterprise, they now become part of the kind of support systems that the government offers, whether it's, business startup grants. So now when you go to a local bank or you go and ask, get finance to start your business, and you explain to them your business model, it's no longer something strange in their mind that you're working on, say, for example, a waste recycling project, or you're working on, water efficient plumbing installations. The awareness is growing that, local green businesses need support, and they can be really vibrant in helping us, make a change.
Climate change has a huge impact globally, but developing countries in Africa specifically usually are affected more. How do we address these issues, and what can us as everyday South Africans do to preserve and conserve our country?
I think, Ziyaad, the global experience of working with governments across the world and seeing businesses change has really showed me that there is a movement that recognizes that, we are facing a climate crisis. And already, I had the experience in these few years of working in the Pacific Islands and listening to people who actually feel that in 10, 15 years, their life, their home will not be there anymore because of sea level rise. I've spoken to people in Bangladesh who've survived 4 or 5 episodes of tropical cyclones and had to move from their home into Dhaka city to try, make a living. So I think the reality of climate change is hitting us. But what I do think is we're at the moment where it's no longer enough to have, good governments taking the lead, some businesses making a change. We need a demand from society. So we need citizens, we need to put our voice behind that of young people and workers that are asking, for a change. And I think we need to hold our governments to account. Our vote means something. So when we vote for a government, and we recognize that we are facing an unemployment crisis, we are facing, a climate crisis that will impact our jobs, our livelihoods. We need our governments to take the action. And if they don't, we have to hold them to account. You have seen in Germany, for example, one group took the German government to court and won because the German government had made a particular commitment to the Paris Agreement, and nationally they were falling short of that commitment. So they were taken to court by a citizens group who won. They said you cannot make a commitment at international level and then your actions in country doesn't reflect that. So the time for us as citizens to step up is here. What can we do as ordinary South Africans? I think very often when we look at the problem, the scale of climate change, we think this is too big. Yeah? We're thinking about rising sea levels, drought, increased extreme events, and we just think, what can we do? But collectively, I think every action, small or big, matters. And I believe in the agency of every person, that has a place on this earth. And I think we all have power. We have power as consumers, as voters, as bank account holders, as parents, as workers. And so we need to exercise that agency to try and make the choices that's not, stuck in the short term. I recognize that in many countries, making that having that space to make a choice between a product that's environmentally polluting and a product that is not that easy. But we need to recognize that we have power as citizens, and we can make changes. And I think every step, no matter big or small, matters.
Thank you, Najma. The Green Economy Coalition works on many amazing projects and initiatives which you've just mentioned. Is there anyone that you would encourage the public to get involved in or support? Which one would it be and why?
I think the one that really resonates with me, and we've worked on this big program that I shared with you called Economics for Nature. So we've been working with governments, with businesses to try and change practices, and we've had important gains. But the one area that we're beginning to explore is a new work called Stories for Life. And it's really, we're working with people we haven't worked before. We're working with artists, with storytellers to actually get right to the heart of the matter. To start understanding what is our economy? How does it work? What matters in the economy? For sure, this period that we've been through as humanity, going through a pandemic together, has taught us what really matters. Lives matter, jobs matter, our health matters. And yet our economy is not geared and not structured in a way that we actually prioritize, what matters. And so we need a better narrative about the purpose of our economy. We need a story that reflects what's important to us, how we are connected with nature and how dependent we are on nature and how we need one another. We need to understand that the health of humanity and the health of the planet is linked. That we are a part of nature, so that for us to survive and thrive, nature must survive and thrive. And we have this narrative, we have this understanding of interconnection. Many cultures, many people the world over still feel that connection, with nature. And we need to bring the stories back into our culture, because I think we can have policies and we can have laws, but we need to change our minds and our hearts. And so the Stories for Life project, which I'm happy to share with you afterwards, the link, because we've created shared assets that can be downloaded to stimulate conversations about the kind of economy that we really want. And it's been wonderful to work with storytellers and artists and journalists, people who tell the stories in our society, and get them to tell a different story so that we can imagine and dream, the kind of world that we want.
Yeah, that's amazing. Najma, how does one get in contact with the Green Economy Coalition? Is there pages that they can follow, or a website that they can visit? to see the work?
Absolutely. So I can send this to you afterwards, Ziyaad. I don't have them on the tip of my fingers, but our website is, the name of the organization, www.greeneconomycoalition.org. And from there, you'll be able to get to all our social media pages on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn, connecting with us. And if you are in a particular country and you want to connect with what our national partners are doing, you're welcome. There's a contact page on our website where you can reach us and try to be connected with the partner that we have in your country.
Okay. Thank you very much, Najma, for joining us today on the show. It was a lovely chat.
Thank you, Ziyaad. It's been a pleasure.
Next week on Conservation Starter. Tune in and stand a chance to win some awesome prizes. Join the conversation on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Hashtag Series Paper Straw Challenge and hashtag Keep ZA Clean. Subscribe to us on YouTube and don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn at iloveza.com and log on to our website www.iloveza.com.